So recently I've been spending a lot of time indoors, like a lot of you will be, and I've been spending a lot of this time watching WoW leveling challenges. And it occurred to me that I actually quite like the idea of these sort of self-imposed challenges where you dictate your own rules and just go about trying to achieve a goal. But the vast majority of them seem to be about leveling, which is something that I greatly enjoy and something that I am interested in potentially bringing to you guys. However, I realised that I didn't really have anything to do in terms of a gold challenge. All the gold challenges are just sort of hit gold cap and things of that nature. So I thought I'd go about trying to do my own, and I decided that I was going to do one that had something of a practical use for people. Most notably being trying to get to your mount money before you reach mount level, but then I realised that that's not much of a challenge. So I decided that I'm going to attempt to make it to 100 gold, so enough money to be able to purchase your mount at level 40 before making it to level 10. Now of course this challenge is going to be quite trivial if we don't set out some ground rules, so I'm going to pop those up on the screen for you now. So our first rule is that if you are going to participate in this challenge, you must be on a fresh realm, no alts. By fresh realm I do not mean a brand new realm, I just mean a realm that is new to you, that you do not currently have characters on, and therefore wouldn't be able to cheat even if you wanted to. Now, I know that the whole point of doing this is to make it a challenge, so I know that people probably wouldn't want to cheat, but just for the sake of being able to prove it, we're going to be doing this strictly on a realm where the only character you have is the one that you are doing the challenge on. No alts. Now, fairly self-explanatory again for our second rule, we must not go past level 9, because this is obviously to get the gold before level 10. If you do get to level 10 by accident, it sucks, but you failed the challenge, start again. Simple as that. The 100 gold that we are aiming for the completion of this challenge does need to be in cash, so that is actual gold, silver and copper in your bag, not value of items that you have waiting to sell on the auction house. Because obviously people could just inflate markets and put up an item and say it's worth a lot of money when it's not, and then they're going to be able to claim that they've completed the challenge and they just simply haven't. The vendor that sells you your mount, which is the premise for this challenge, doesn't accept auction house value, it accepts gold, so that's where that one stands. And to that end, we also do need TSM to be installed for the ledger. Now, TSM is probably something you're all going to want to use to complete this challenge, because you are allowed to use the auction house in order to complete this challenge, and that is something that you are pretty much going to have to do unless you intend on farming endlessly to grind out leathers and sell them to, well, I suppose leathers would actually level you up, wouldn't they? So grinding out ores and selling them to a vendor could take you a long time. You would get there eventually, sure, but I don't think that's the way any of us are going to do it. So chances are you're going to want TSM installed anyway, but you do need to have it installed so that we have access to the ledger. Now this is to make sure that people aren't cheating, once again, that you've not got a friend to have an account that's come and just giving you 100 gold for no reason and complete the challenge. So just for that proof purposes, again, we do need to have TSM installed. And finally, we do have that we are going to have no disabling of experience gain. Now, obviously, the NPC that prevents you from gaining experience that is used for twinking would make this challenge quite trivial, because in principle you could again just grind out mobs for an eternity and vendor the grey items at 30 copper a time until you got to 100 gold. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that, that sounds horrible, but by not disabling AXP, you're not going to be able to do that, and therefore you're not going to have that issue. So enough on the rules, and let's have a look at where I elected to start my journey on this challenge. So first things first, as you probably noticed by now, I have made a dwarf paladin. Now there is some logic to this. My first instinct was simply to recreate the first character I ever made in the game and use that for this challenge, because there's no particular reason as to why any one class would be favorited over another for this challenge, since most of the work is going to come on the auction house, so it's pretty much just going to be personal preference. I did pick a dwarf paladin based off the fact that my first ever character in WoW was a dwarf hunter, but when I went to go make a dwarf hunter, I realised that I spend all of my time on WoW Classic and WoW Retail playing Horde. And when you spend most of your time on WoW Classic playing Horde, it means you just simply never get to play a Paladin, so I thought, oh, what the hey, I went for Paladin instead. Now, this early portion of the game is obviously going to be about getting some really basic amounts of gold in your bag, because when you first make this character you of course start with 0 copper and you're building your way up from nothing, and that's the whole point of this journey. So I grind out a few levels, doing a couple of the starting quests, get myself a little weapon going, and decide that I'm going to get to level 5 and get myself over to Karanos. So I breeze through a little bit of this, just selling items to the vendors that I'm getting from these wolves, going through this starting area at the speed of light to get through to Karanos as quick as I possibly can. And after what felt like an eternity of grinding wolves and trolls and trying to get some quests done, and then buggering about with a UI that simply did not want to set up correctly, I found myself over in Karanos. Now, at this point, I am level 5, and I have but a couple of silver in my bag. I do have a couple of skills trained to be able to kill some mobs, and I've thought to myself that I'd get over to Karanos and get myself mining as quick as possible, because I am looking to get items that I can sell on the auction house as quick as possible, just to start ramping up this amount of gold that we actually get in coming through our bags. So then once we have just the littlest bit of gold, we can actually start trading on the auction house, which is where we're going to be making the majority of our gold in this challenge. But this getting started is going to be absolutely brutal for me and for you as well, simply because of the fact that you are dealing with such trivial amounts of gold. You are going to be considering yourself lucky if you're getting a grey item drop from a mob that sells for a few copper. Now, as soon as we can start getting copper ore, however, then we are going to be ramping up our intake dramatically, because we're going to be able to sell that on the auction house. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to need that copper ore who are incredibly lazy and simply do not want to go out and farm it for themselves, and those are the people who are going to help us get a footing on the auction house to start off our journey. As I was buggering about trying to find out where the mining trader was in Karanos, I was debating as to what I was going to get as my second profession. Now, originally my thought was to get skinning and sell the leathers, but I did realise that skinning obviously involves killing mobs, and at a certain point I'd have to simply stop doing that. But then I realised that my decision was going to be kind of moot for the time being, based off the fact that I didn't have enough gold to train 2 professions anyway, so it got pushed aside to be done later. And I set out on my mining adventures. As we set off on our adventures on our little mining journey, we adventure deeper into Dunmorrow, not realising we are still level 5, and the majority of the creatures that we encounter are bigger than us. Luckily for us, we're a paladin, so we can put up a decent fight against mobs that are quite a bit bigger than us. However, our journey is perilous. It is filled with non-stop wolves and bears and trolls, and we die repeatedly. By repeatedly, I mean twice, but we die repeatedly. We do, however, manage to acquire ourselves about 2 stacks of ore, as well as some leathers and some leather scraps. At this point, a final death puts us back in Karanos, and we realise that it's probably about time to call it a night and go and get our items up on the auction house to sell, so that the next day we'll have some gold in the mailbox waiting for us, and we can take a look at maybe purchasing something on the auction house that's so cheap, with a view to reselling to start this auction house play rolling. So finally we arrive at the auction house, and we're excited to get the ball rolling with the start of this challenge, with the meaningful start anyway, where we start to make some amounts of gold that matter. We run up excitedly to the auctioneer, and disaster strikes. We go to post our auctions, and only the one tiger's eye that we luckily got from a copper vein is actually able to be sold at the moment, due to the prices being so incredibly low on the server that I have selected. Now, I could just post them and make a loss comparative to what I could get, and that would get us some gold in the bank to start, but given that the likelihood is we're going to be purchasing items just like these ores or some cloths or herbs at low level at a low value to sell higher, it would be rather counterproductive to sell the items we already have at those low values. So we post our tiger's eye, and then we check back a little bit later. Finally, fatigue takes hold, and I can't wait any longer, so I log back into game with a view to going to the auction house in hopes of having a bit of a fortune this time. And fantastic news, our copper ore is able to go up for 2 silver and 92 copper per ore. Now all we have to do is post and hope that come morning we have some sales. Morning comes and we're logged back in, and we are still next to the auctioneer, so we decide to see if we're feeling lucky, and we go to post our auctions again for the stones and leathers that we still had in our bag, and almost all of it goes straight up on the auction house. It turns out the prices get really high on the server that I've selected in the early morning, or at least that's how it would appear, so that might be something if you are taking part in this challenge to bear in mind as well. So then you can know what's going to be the best times for you to be trying to sell your items and what times are going to be better for making your purchases. In my experience, it seems to be that we're able to get quite decent prices for selling these low level items when supply is low, and then peak times during the evening, the supply is going to be quite high and we aren't going to be able to get them. But however, we may be able to purchase the items at this time, because obviously that's extra supply is going to drive down the price. So digression aside, we post our auctions and we head over to the mailbox. At this point we're excited to see that we've had a fantastic night and everything that we placed on the auction house has sold. So this is the point where we're going to call it for episode 1. We've got our footing and we've collected all of our sales, and we are just shy of 1 gold. Now obviously at that rate it's going to take us quite a long time to complete this challenge. However, of course, the more gold we have, the more gold we can invest and the more gold that we are going to be able to make. So this looks like it's an excellent start on a long journey towards completing our challenge. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do let me know down in the comments below, or like the video. And if you want to be kept up to date with the future episodes on this challenge, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. But for now, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.